female swim team people that were talking about Lia Thomas coming into their bathrooms and stripping naked in front of them. Fully naked, fully intact. I know many transgender people in real life. No trans woman that I know would ever want to make a cisgender woman feel uncomfortable in that way.
Next, a surprisingly based trans woman on TikTok just called out Lia Thomas, that controversial transgender swimmer who dominated the female competition.
Lia Thomas, a man with male parts, going into a female locker room.
I gotta be real. As a transgender woman, I'm not a fan of transgender women playing in female sports. I am also not a fan of them changing in women's locker rooms. And if we're gonna do that, then be in all the way a private space. Watch the full clip that I stitched this to, and later on there are female swim team people that were talking about Lia Thomas coming into their bathrooms and stripping naked in front of them. Fully naked, fully intact. I know many transgender people in real life. No trans woman that I know would ever want to make a cisgender woman feel uncomfortable in that way. When we go into bathrooms, it's just to do our business and then leave. I don't know any trans women who go into women's saunas or change in front of women. The reason why we don't do that is because we're not trying to draw attention to ourselves. We're just trying to live our lives authentically. I have love and respect for transgender athletes, that's for sure. But our community has to pick our battles, and we have to navigate in a way where people won't take the things that we do and throw it in the entire community's face. The optics of Lia having her appendage out in front of a locker room full of women, not what we needed right now. As we continue to advocate for our own liberation, we need to focus on self-expression. We need to focus on freedom. We need to focus on being able to go to the bathrooms that we want to go to. We need to focus on being able to keep our medication. Trans women in sports and the locker room stuff, it's a fringe issue. We're only 1% of the population, and a small fraction of us even want to play sports. The powers that be are drumming up these stories to take away the rest of our rights. Also, we cannot afford to make mistakes like this right now.
All right, so I'm sure I disagree with this trans woman TikToker on many issues, including different aspects of trans issues. But I really respect what she's saying in this video, and I appreciate it is tough to disagree or call out anything within the trans or LGBT community without immediately being labeled an outcast, a traitor, scum, and being turned on. Just look at how they treat the Blair Whites and Buck Angels of the world. So honestly, kudos to her for even speaking out at all. But this point about Lia Thomas and about especially, not wanting to make women uncomfortable, it seems like such common sense to me, and it really does seem true. Like, most everyday trans people are trying to go about their lives unnoticed and just fit in. They're not trying to troll women or make women uncomfortable or flash women in locker rooms or do any of these things that unfortunately some high-profile trans people like Lia Thomas have and do. And it really is harmful. It really is counterproductive. It really does give fuel to the fire and fodder to the people who are just genuinely transphobic and want to raise outrage against all trans people everywhere, when you have that kind of insane antagonistic behavior from such prominent trans people like Lia Thomas. I also agree that, it's not the end of the world to acknowledge that trans athletes, at least trans women who are born biologically male, have an advantage in women's sports, and maybe there should be rules that prevent them from many of these different sports. That's not the end of the world. It's actually pretty common sense. It ensures fairness and opportunity, and they can still compete just in open divisions or in men's categories. That seems like a pretty small trade-off to make, right? Rather than polarize the whole nation and get backlash against your community for arguing that people who went through male puberty should be able to compete in women's sports, and it's perfectly fine and you're a bigot if you don't accept it. That's not going to be a popular position because it's not commonsensical whatsoever, and it's going to lead to backlash for other forms of transgender rights where we would hope Americans are supportive of people's rights to live however they want. So I appreciate this person calling out the insanity, pushing back on their own community, and taking a pretty nuanced and middle-of-the-road approach on these questions. And I wish more voices like this were elevated, which is why I chose to include this video instead of the crazies, because they are doing so much harm to the trans community, to the LGBT community, but most of us aren't like them. We're really not, and they're giving us a bad name, so kudos to this person. I'm sure we disagree on all sorts of things, but I appreciate your commentary, at least on this one issue, and encourage you to keep speaking out.